you guys all doing?
Coach
Coach
Sprinkle,
Sprinkle, good to see you.
Good to see you guys, man. How you doing?
Hanging in there, day at a time.
I hear you.
Coach
Coach
Sprinkle,
Sprinkle, good to see you.
Good to see you guys, man. How you doing?
Hanging in there, day at a time.
I hear you.
Coach
Coach
Sprinkle,
Sprinkle, good to see you.
Good to see you guys, man. How you doing?
Hanging in there, day at a time.
I hear you.
Coach Sprinkle, good to see you.
Good to see you guys, man. How you doing?
Hanging in there, day at a time.
I hear you.
RP,
Are you guys all hearing that?
right?
Good
RP,
call.
are you just gonna replay that over and over again? Like,
Hey,
I'm sorry about that, Tommy.
no worries, man.
I feel like this is personal development, though, like some type of professional development, like how you sound in a job interview or something like that, right?
Exactly.
Listening to yourself.
We good now?
Yeah, was that Facebook Live? Is that what, or YouTube Live? Is that what you were doing with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Coach Sprinkle,
that's
you're on
good.
YouTube. So slow start coming in today, it looks like.
Everybody just got done watching the basketball tournament.
TBT.
Exactly. It's you watch all those players that you recruited didn't get, now they're kicking ass.
I'm looking at a couple of them myself.
Yeah,
Knowing I probably didn't have a great chance to get them anyway.
exactly.
We got some people still trickling in. So we'll get going here. And I'll give a couple minutes. I know Coach Sprinkle, we got a timetable for Coach, so I know he's got some things he needs to get done.
I got to be at a dinner where they actually want to see the football coach, but I got to show up at it. Imagine that, huh?
And that's what happens when you have a hell of a rookie year, first year head coach.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
You get invited as a third wheel.
We'll go ahead we'll give it probably about another 2 minutes,
Yeah.
and then we'll get started. So I know it's a couple other Zooms that are going on at this time. So if you have not done so, can you please leave your contact information in the chat box? Please leave your contact information in the chat box.
I'll put mine right now so I don't forget.
And just a reminder, we are on YouTube Live. So we have a couple people trickling in. We'll give it about 1 more minute, and then we'll get started with Coach Sprinkle. Please leave your contact information in the chat box. I'm gonna be honest with you. We're getting to the point, man. I'm seeing the same names almost in a ton of these Zoom calls. So we should probably know each other's numbers by now.
Yeah.
For the most part. So, but we'll go ahead and get started. I still know there'll be a few people that come in, but tonight we're going to do kind of similar to what we did last week. We have 2 head coaches at the Division I level. We've got Coach Danny Sprinkle from Montana State, and then we have Coach Sean Woods, the head coach of Southern University, where I'm currently employed. So that's my head man. So I'm pretty excited to have these 2 coaches on here tonight. And they'll tell their journey and their story, as well as giving us a few nuggets to take away tonight. And then we'll do some Q&A with the both of them. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started with Coach Sprinkle, who just finished his first season at Montana State. Before that, he was an assistant at Cal State Northridge and Montana State, which was also his alma mater. And he was also at Cal State Fullerton. Coach, how long was that? 6 years?
6 years, yep.
At Fullerton. So, and indirectly, he probably doesn't know, he helped Southern University big time this past season. We got one of his former players at Fullerton that helped us tremendously. Without further ado, we'll go ahead and let Coach Sprinkle give his story.
Yeah. Well, no, thanks for having me on, and obviously thanks for all you guys jumping on this call. I think it's awesome that everybody gets on these, and Coach mentioned before too, like, let's get more people on these calls. Like, invite everybody. Make sure they're getting on this stuff. It's important. And but thanks, Coach Price, for putting this on. I'm glad I got to go before Coach Woods, because he's not a guy you want to follow. I know. I've followed him for a long time, from when he was at Mississippi Valley State. He has no idea even who I am, but I know who he is. Obviously, he was a hell of a player at Kentucky, and I followed his coaching career. And but I'm from actually Helena, Montana. That's where I grew up. I played at Montana State for 4 years. Had a good career, played with some great players, went to the tournament, lost 2 other championships, but had a great, time here at Montana State, which ultimately led me to coming back here and being the head coach. If I would not have played here, I would not be a Division I head coach. And, I'll kind of go through a little bit of that, but Cal State Northridge was actually in the Big Sky Conference at the time when I played. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with Bobby Braswell, but he was the head coach at Cal State Northridge for, I think, almost 19 years. And he gave me my first start. And I just met him from playing against his teams. And I knew I wanted to coach. And he took a chance on a white kid from Helena, Montana, to come to LA. I just packed up my car, drove down. And from day one, he was hard as hell on me. But I knew he loved me. And, I would, to this day, I would do anything for that man. He's basically my second father. And, I couldn't thank him enough I wouldn't be a head coach. I wouldn't be a coach without him. And that's how important he is to me. And I went down there as a grad assistant, had no money. I lived in a place in Northridge where it didn't even have AC. And if you guys know Northridge, it's about 110 degrees there in the summer. And, but he gave me a meal card where I got about 15 meals a week, but that was plenty to get my foot in the door. I got lucky. A couple guys moved on, Eric Brown and Mike Johnson, who at the time, they both moved on to USC with Coach Henry Bibby. And so I was able to move up into a full-time spot after my first year, which was very lucky. I was there for about 5 years, and we had pretty good teams. We ran into Utah State and Pacific, who were both in the top 20 at the time, and we lost 2 championships. Then I came back to Montana State as an assistant for 2 years, and Coach Braswell called me after my second year back here as an assistant and asked me if I'd like to come back and be an assistant again for him. And kind of when they say, when mom calls to bring you home, you just go home. Well, he's basically dad. And when he called, it was an easy transition. Even though I love my alma mater, when he called, I felt the responsibility to go back there. And we went back to the NCAA tournament. Had some really good teams. We ended up, after 6 years in 2012, we got let go and a new president and a new AD came in. And that's kind of when the reality of coaching hit me. And you could do a great job, and sometimes circumstances don't matter. Coach Braswell was a pillar on that campus. He did things that have never been done there and still haven't been done there since he left. And but it opened up my eyes too, and I got on with Dedrick Taylor at Cal State Fullerton for 6 years, who's one of my closest friends now. Learned a ton from him. He's a tremendous offensive coach. We ran a totally different style than Coach Braswell did. But just the stuff he taught me more in developing as a head coach, from, having awareness of every situation of your players, game situations, on campus. I had never heard the term manage up until I got with Coach Taylor. And what he meant by that is managing up. Even if you're the head coach, you have to manage your AD. You have to manage your boosters. You have to manage your president. And it's some of those things as an assistant coach that you don't think about. And, for all you guys that are assistant coaches now, I would start developing that right now. Work on, your compliance director, really work on managing and developing those relationships all across campus, because you never know when when your name's going to get called to be a head coach. And the one thing you better make sure you are is prepared. And, it's one thing I think from working with Coach Braswell and Coach Taylor is I was prepared. A lot of people, when I got the job at Montana State, first off, they didn't even know who the hell I was. And they were probably wondering, how the hell did this guy get the job? And trust me, sometimes I was wondering the same thing. But the one thing I knew is from working with those two, I knew I was prepared to be a head coach. And going through our first year and the battles that you face, just taking that seat next to you, it's a lot. From managing your staff, stuff you don't even think about, managing all your assistant coaches, managing their egos, their recruiting tactics. They want this player, he wants this player. How are you going to manage it? And so, getting those guys was, Coach Taylor, Coach Braswell was obviously awesome. Another thing Coach Taylor taught me too was to really get involved with search firms. And even though they didn't necessarily help me get the job at Montana State, at most Division I spots, you're going to have to know somebody that's going to get your foot in the door. And I knew a lady, Katie Young, who she helped me through the interview process. A lot of you guys are probably familiar with Katie. And, but just being able to lean on people like that who can help you through interview processes, they can get your foot in the door somewhere where you may not know anybody. And I know everybody on this call wants to be a head coach if you're not already. And, but those are crucial things nowadays, that if you want to get to this, to this spot, you got to do a little bit of extra, and you have to have hell of a lot of luck. And I had more luck than you could even imagine. So, that's kind of my track, to being here. Everybody has their own track to being a head coach. Coach Woods, if you just went from a playing standpoint, his career at Kentucky, and I still remember him hitting the shot against Duke with whatever it was, 3 seconds or 2. I know he probably doesn't want to bring that up if he's on this call right now, but those are the guys that you have to battle to get jobs, and not just head jobs, to get assistant jobs. And we live in the most competitive environment, to get jobs. And with Corona right now, it's going to get even tougher. I know a lot of junior colleges are unfortunately, going under right now, and people are cutting athletics. There's a lot of damn good JUCO coaches that need jobs. And so it's going to get even more competitive, this fall and this spring coming up. And so, just make sure you're prepared for your opportunity. That's kind of my story. But one thing, Coach Price, he asked me, if I had kind of a question for the group, and I don't know how to kind of word this, and I hope it's right coming from me. But one thing I've kind of seen is with the generation nowadays, how do we teach them about African American history? At Northridge and Fullerton, our team was primarily African American. And I had this conversation with Dedrick Taylor the other night. I'm not sure a lot of the kids nowadays understand African American history. Like, first off, they don't even know who Michael Jordan is, half of them, which is crazy, but it's true. But I don't know if kids nowadays, if they know the history like Coach Woods did, Coach Tick Price, like what they went through and what they've seen to get to where they're at. I don't know, sometimes kids nowadays, it seems they're just going by, hey, I'm just going day to day, day to day, day to day. And, I think, it's one thing for me, I guess, I want to get our players to really know African American history. Some of them may know it, but I don't know if they know it to the extent that they need to. And I think some of them, their eyes are kind of getting, a little bit widened right now with some of the stuff that's going on. But I'd like to kind of get you guys' thoughts on that and how we can kind of cultivate that throughout all of our teams, and not just our African American players, but I mean, our white players also who need it more than ever. But, it just seems to me that even some of my African American players don't really know kind of the struggle and everything that's really gone on. Coach Tick Price, what would you say to that?
Well, you must saw me raising up, Coach.
Yep.
I think more than anything, we've got to maybe have a commitment from your university, from the president down. Do you guys have an African American Studies course?
We do not.
Okay, that's a start. If they are committed to inclusion, I think that's a start to teach that course. And it's not just for your African American players, but also to your white players, so they can understand the culture that all of our kids or our Black kids need to know, but the white kids need to know too. What people need most is not a brilliant mind that speaks, but a special heart that listens. But you gotta have somebody who have great oratory skills. It might take a year for you to have someone to articulate the history of our Black ancestors. But for that whole year, you could possibly, Coach, have guest speakers. You got Zoom now with your team. I'll be glad to share my thoughts, because I came up through civil rights. I've been seeing this whole thing play out for a long time. I think white people especially have to understand the uncomfortable truth about this country. Not a lot has changed. In my opinion, racism isn't getting worse. It's getting filmed. That's what's bringing forth all the protests. People got camera phones now. You couldn't get away. You can't get away with a lot of shit now that you used to back in the day. People filming this stuff, and now it's time for our police officers to be held accountable. I heard someone say, well, there's always bad apples in every occupation. And I say to that, it doesn't have to be. If you got a bad apple, say flying a damn plane, and you crash that damn plane, it's not necessary to have a bad apple as a pilot. If they have so many issues or record of brutality, you got to get rid of that bad apple. But to get back to African American studies, I'm on a committee here at Lamar University in which that's something that we talk about. Let's have that, because we don't have it here either. They have history courses that have certain chapters on slavery, but that's not enough. Black folk have built this country. It's not just through hard work. They broke their back in the fields for our slave owners, but yet slave owners get the monuments. In a lot of ways, white folk don't understand why people want to tear down those monuments. They want to tear down those monuments where for white folk, it's history, it's part of something that they felt some of these slave owners part of the Confederacy. But for Black folk, it represents hatred and racism. All those things Black kids and white kids got to understand. So every time we walk past those statues, it's a reminder of some of the things that Black folk have had to go through many years. Emmett Till in the 50s got killed at 16 years old because he was accused of flirting with a white woman. I mean, that's been going on from the 50s, then the 60s. Martin Luther King got killed in Lorraine Hotel in Memphis, Tennessee. And I can go on and name people. Rodney King got his ass beat. And it just, but again, these camera phones are getting people now in a position where they see this. When a man put his knee on another guy's neck and the guy said, I can't breathe, it's time to get off of the guy. So we've got to make sure at your school, Coach Sprinkle, there's got to be a commitment. I see you committed to trying to help our African-American students and our white student athletes understand that those days are over. We need you to continue to not be silent, but step up and say, look, I'm gonna join the fight. Because black lives just doesn't matter when they shoot basketball or make 3-pointers. Or Black lives don't just matter when they making touchdowns. All lives matter, but all lives don't matter until Black lives matter. So call me, I'll be glad to speak to your team and give them how I feel about this whole issue. Old school. I've been saying this so many times. I'm so mad, I get frustrated when I see this stuff happening over and over again.
Yep. No, you'll be getting a call. And I mean, you're like listening to Coach Braswell. Like everybody on this call could probably listen to you for the next 3 hours.
No, man, this is Ryan's deal.
Yep.
But I love listening to all of you guys speak.
He's already heard it. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard this story quite a bit, but I'll listen to it even more. It's worth it. So,
but even the stuff that you just mentioned, Coach, that's the stuff that our players need to know. I don't know if our players know all that information. And I know my players don't. And that's what I need to get through to them.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of times skin color does not make you superior or inferior. And that's what kind of where we are today. Yep. And being able to recognize who we are and appreciate our fellow man for whatever race it is. Yep. So call me, I'll be glad to speak, Coach.
Thank you.
And by the way, you're doing a heck of a job, man. I've been following.
Thank you. Don't be calling
Yeah.
trying to play us either. We're not playing.
All right, we're going to open things up for questions for everybody in the Zoom. So feel free to ask Coach Sprinkle questions.
How you doing, Coach Sprinkle?
Good. How you
This
doing,
is
Coach
Lester
Stewart?
Stewart. Coach Stewart, Casper College. Had a question. So when did you know that? What was your like aha moment, or when did you know that it was time for you to become a head coach?
I don't know if I ever had a moment. Like, I knew the last probably 2 years at Fullerton, like that's when I really felt like I was ready. You know, and I would talk with Diedrich a lot. If we were going recruiting, you know, we would talk, and it was almost like he knew it was going to happen, because as I went through kind of the last 2 years, just the conversations that we had, I knew he was preparing me, you know, from, you know, even 2 months before I interviewed here, he knew the job was pretty much going to open up. And so he would pepper me with questions weekly, I mean, almost daily, you know, and just to get my mind churning to think about that. And, but I would say probably the last 2 years is when I really felt confident and prepared, that I knew if I got that opportunity that I could do it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Coach Sprinkle.
Coach Pete, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I want to ask a question because we played you this year when I was at UNC Greensboro. What was something how did you get your guys to have so much confidence as a first-year head coach so early, and of course stay with it throughout the course of the year without being overbearing?
It was, I mean, we had a great point guard, thank God. And, you know, he kind of set the tone for everything. But the one thing I never did as a first year coach, I never told anybody to not take a shot. I didn't want guys thinking about it. I would, you know, obviously they kind of knew what their role was, and they knew if they got out of line, we could just pull them out, but I wouldn't blast them for taking a bad shot. You know, the only thing I stressed with them was, if you're not going to defend and rebound, you're not going to play. And I was lucky that our three best players defended and rebounded. And so it was easy to kind of hold everybody else on the team accountable. But, you know, I wanted guys to play free and play confident and, you know, not worry about making mistakes. And it's easier said than done, because a lot of times I would catch myself, especially as a first year coach, trying to control everything. And it's just better to just let it go, you know, because sometimes when you start controlling it, the players, they can feel it. You know, they can feel if you're stressed, or, you know, if you're trying to pull the reins in on them, and they won't play as free. And, you know, a lot of it was my assistants too. I had great assistants this year too, that, you know, that really helped me. But I think just letting them play free was kind of the main thing.
Yeah. How were you able to let it go? Like, did you go like for a walk every day? Were you going to the movies during the day before practice, before games, or whatever?
Ooh, no, one good advice I got from Coach Braswell was that the hour before practice, don't do anything. Like, don't have any meetings with coaches, don't have meetings with athletic department personnel. Like, get your thoughts together and just relax for that hour. And once I started doing that, like, I'd go into practice with way more energy, because you guys have all probably been through it, where 10 minutes before practice starts, you find out a kid skipped class, or he showed up to the training room late, and then you're pissed off, and then you're taking it out on the team the whole practice, which isn't fair to them. And, you know, but I think that really, it gave me a better kind of awareness and a better kind of attitude, even going into practice, you know, taking that hour and shutting everything out before.
Sprink.
Yep.
What's up, man?
What's happening?
Doing all right? Hey, quick question. What's 2 or 3 things you think you would have done differently after your first year as a head coach?
I would have strategically, like I wouldn't do anything different. Defensively, like last summer in our 21 practices, 99% of it was defense. Like the players, they probably hated me after last summer because we barely touched the ball. But I knew that was the culture that we needed here to get to even have a chance. I was pretty confident in what I wanted to run offensively and defensively. But one thing I probably would have done differently was probably let my assistants probably coach more early. And I'd never worked with any of them. I knew them, but I knew what I wanted to do. And I probably didn't coach my assistants good enough to the point where they felt comfortable jumping into a drill or jumping in. And, I could tell they were a little timid sometimes to where I knew exactly how I wanted the drill. And I kind of expected them to just, hey, watch it. And then you know what to do from here on out. And, but this year, I definitely want to spend more time coaching my staff and letting them coach the players. Because, it takes a lot of energy to do it all. And not to say that I did it all, but, it took a lot of energy out of me. The other thing, and Coach Price, you probably noticed, and Coach Woods, we have a pretty good, booster following up here because there's no professional team. So there's 2 D1 schools up here, and it's half the state cares about everything you do every day. And it takes a lot of energy, from going to practice and all of a sudden driving to Billings 2 hours and talking to 75 people and driving right back that night and doing it 4 or 5 times a week. And I'm not going to do that this year, where, last year I felt like I had to, because I had to kind of galvanize the fan base and wake them up a little bit. But that took a lot out of me. And I felt like it probably at the end of the year, I probably wasn't as good as I needed to be, for my team, because I was just, it's mentally draining. Those would probably be those are 2 of the biggest things. And, but definitely letting my staff, giving them more, personal attention and letting them rock and do their thing.
Gotcha. Appreciate that. It's good stuff.
You got it, Squash.
Sprink, what's going on, man?
What's up, Coach Pfeiffer?
How you doing?
Good.
Hey, man, I got a question for you, like in regards to kind of your first 30, 60 days. Like with you guys having that many amount of boosters and people that you're trying to meet as the head coach, how are you allotting your time?
Yeah, I mean, the good thing was most of the major boosters and donors, I knew them from playing here and just from growing up here. So I kind of had a built-in advantage from that standpoint. But they still want to be touched. They still want to feel important, be, felt important. And, whether it's stopping by a couple of the insurance agents, stopping by the sporting goods stores, if you're out to dinner, invite 3 or 4 of them, just take them out, take them to breakfast or coffee. It goes a long way, and they want to give money if they feel important. And, and they are important because obviously at our level, you need that money to, to do extra things to make it feel like a Division I program. What was your other question? That was it?
That was it. You got it, man.
I'm not very smart, so sometimes you have to repeat stuff. Coach Woods, I got a question for you.
Okay.
What was the hardest thing your first year being a head coach at Mississippi Valley State? What caught you off guard? I was telling them earlier, my biggest thing was probably managing my staff, because that's something that I'd never thought about as an assistant, because you're just an assistant, hey, I'm just going to do my job. I'm going to bust my ass. I'm going to make sure I got my stuff done. I'm not thinking about the other 2 guys where now you got to think about everybody.
Well, when I first got it was kind of a unique situation because I was with Neil Doherty at TCU as an assistant. Then he got fired, and I had, just by the grace of God, Mississippi Valley was trying to get another guy to become their coach after James Green left, and he actually didn't want it because he thought he can get the job where he was as an assistant, and just gave him my name. And so once I got it, I tell the story all the time. When I first got to Mississippi Valley, it looked like a bomb went off. And, my wife, I've been with my wife ever since I was 18 years old, and she's never doubted me, not one bit, of my abilities to do anything. And when we walked in that gym and she looked me dead in my face, she said, "How in the world are you going to sell this?" It looked like we're going to talk about Black Lives Matter. It looked like an old school Coach Tick Price, that's closed down, and all that's left is the gym, and they made it into a rec center and didn't do anything to it. And all they do is just go in there and play pickup games at night, So I was scared to death, but I was hungry. I was so ambitious because, I didn't come up the same way. And I'll tell my story when I talk, but I just had to take advantage of the opportunity. And I was blessed to hire a guy by the name of Dylan Howard, who's the head coach at Alabama A&M now. And it was like, he was from Indiana, had been a head coach at Division III level. And he was a very calm guy. And I'm very high strung. And when we took the job, it was three guys on scholarship, nothing. And we got the job July 1. So in 3 days, we had to go out and recruit and put together a team. And we, managed to get some walk-ons and put together a team. But I called on, God bless his soul, Neil Doherty, who was the head coach at TCU when I coached under him. He was out of the business. And I would call him at 12:30 at night. And Neil was very, very organized. He came from the school of, the Dean Smith area with Roy Williams, coached under him, coached under Eddie Fogler. So he knew the Carolina way. And that was the last coach that I coached with. So I just wanted to be organized. So he had to walk me through everything every night. Day 1, day 2, day 3. And I just sat there and listened. And I took what as a player, from what I learned at Rick Pitino, I knew the aura, because you come from the same school I come from. You come from Dietrich Taylor. Dietrich Taylor comes from Herb Sendak.
Yep.
Herb Sendak comes from Rick Pitino.
Yep.
So I know the lingo. I know your language.
Yep.
And Coach Taylor gets that from Herb. And Herb is probably one of the most anal, by the book guys that you can never meet. And I've never seen a guy write so clearly on a chalkboard as Herb Sendak. And you know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
But anyway, and then I would call Herb. I just called people, but I knew I had one thing that I can do well. And being a point guard and knew what the demands were, I had to make sure whoever was on my team was going to play their ass off.
Yep.
And I was big on individual workouts and player development. So that became part of my DNA. And then when you do that and you make guys, work out as hard as they've ever done in their life, you demand a certain thing. It was tough, but I wanted to establish that culture right there. And then the X and O's and the strategic part of it could come later. I could take that from someone else, but I wanted to make sure that my guys were competitors and had a chip on their shoulder. So that's how I went into it. And you know what? I still believe by that creed right now, of the main thing you got to do. And just like what you said, you told your guys, I don't care how talented you are, if you don't defend and rebound, you won't play. And the reason why your three best players are your three best players is because they want that.
Yep. So
you were lucky and to have the point guard walking in to establish your culture. And that's great. Now, it's easy because they already know what to expect. You selling it in your pitch when you're recruiting. Now you saying that you're giving your assistants, okay, more leeway into what? Selling and talking about what you're doing. And they know exactly how the pitch needs to be, what the temperature needs to be. But sometimes it takes that first year for them to know, you know, because you can't, one thing you can't do teach an assistant is your pulse. You can teach him your strategy, but you can't give him your energy. He's got to see it and understand that you bring it every day. That in order for us to be successful and you to keep up, you got to keep up with this. So if I'm not there, I still have confidence that the temperature in that gym is going to still be the same. And that's what you had to do. So don't say you would do that differently, because you shouldn't. You know, you got to do it first. They got to see how you actually do it for a whole year. And it's tough, you know, but Coach Price will tell you, you know, Ryan will tell you now, when I walk in the gym, he already got the dribble drive going, and he understands how, if they ain't going hard, you know, he'll take like shit, you know, that's me out there, and he'll get on him, you know, because I'm gonna get on him if he ain't demanding a certain type of, you know what I'm saying, a certain type of temperature. Then that goes for the rest of my assistants, because what you want to do as a head coach is empower your guys. And when everybody wants to be a head coach, but at the end of the day, whatever you say, that's what they're going to take out of there, and they do it with that passion and that enthusiasm. Now you got something. Now what you're doing is just like Dietrich is instilled in you, which Coach Sendek is instilled in him, and on, you're instilling in your guys. Yep. So the main thing is, fellas, if you're on this call right now, is the main thing you got to do is, if you don't have a certain type of culture where you're the toughest team, you think you're the toughest team and the hardest working team in the United States or the state or whatever, your high school, junior college or whatever, then you're looking at this thing all wrong, you know. And the one thing that I know that makes Rick Pitino so well is you're not going to ever come into a practice and it's dull, you know, or come to a Sean Woods practice and it's dull. There's got to be a certain type of deal that you do every single day. And that one thing is, we don't do nothing half-ass. You know, you half-ass getting, you know, running 5-man break and 3-man weave. After that, you got to create the most competitive culture and competitive practice every single day. So now when you go play somebody else, the best compliment I ever get is, man, your teams play so damn hard. How the hell do you get your teams to play so hard? It ain't, man, you ran a hell of a play. You run a hell of a system. The hell with that system, because if I'm knocking that system's dick in the creek, excuse my language, then, you know what I'm saying, that system ain't nothing. But if I'm out rebounding you and beating you to balls and finishing at the rim tough and mentally making free throws down the stretch and getting stops and turning you over, then 9 times out of 10, I'm going to beat that strategic deal you got. Yeah. And that's what you want to do. You know, you want to get your teams to be the toughest teams around from a competitive standpoint. And that's where it starts. And I think, Coach, you heading in the right direction, man. And if you know, there's a reason why you had a great first year, because you established that, and don't ever lose that.
Yeah, thank you. One thing that sticks out that he said too, that Dedric Taylor was huge on, and for the assistants on the call, bring energy every single day to the office, to practice, no matter what, no matter how pissed off your head coach is. If you know he's in a bad mood, have great energy. Make sure the team has great energy, you know, because that's contagious, man. And you can't have a great practice if you don't have great energy. You can't have a great game plan if you don't have great energy. And, you know, that's one thing I know. If you ever want to work for Dedric Taylor and you don't have energy, you have no chance. You'll be fired within a week, because that is probably the number one criteria that he looks for.
We got time for one more question for Coach Sprinkle. I know Coach Sprinkle has got another engagement. Guys, let's not be quiet. We got a Division I head coach on here, guys.
Coach Mark Rutledge, Henderson State University.
How you doing, Coach?
I'm doing great. How are you? I'm doing
Good.
Great. I have a quick question. I always want to know, how do you structure your day as a head coach, and how do you stave off the anxiety of did we get everything that we needed to do done today? Like, how do you organize yourself and how do you structure your day?
The first thing I do, we meet every morning at 10 a.m. with my staff, and we go over whatever they have to go over. We go over academics, we go over recruiting, anything player related, what we have going that day. And that way everybody's on the same page. Everybody on the staff knows exactly what everybody's in charge of. And it organizes my thoughts, and I'm able to organize the staff from that 10 o'clock meeting. We try not to keep it, more than 45 minutes. Sometimes it'll go for an hour if we do practice and things like that. And then from there on, it depends if it's during the season. Obviously you have some media obligations. You have practice, you have your 6-man stuff at night, or we call it our 6-man club. But, depending on what time of year it is, but I think a critical thing is meeting it together as a staff every day. Whether they're telling me about new recruits, whether, we might show some video of some recruits. Hey, we like him, we don't like him. As you guys know, everything's fluid in our business. Stuff changes every day. You don't know what kids are coming back, what kids are staying. And so you got to be prepared for everything. But that's probably the main thing, how I structure my day. I try to work out at like 6 a.m. every day, because if I don't, I'm not getting it in. So I try to work out, clear my mind, get a good breakfast, go in. I'll kind of spend some time by myself or kind of do the things that I have to do from, 8 to 10. And then when we meet at 10 as a staff, I'm organized. I can show them practice or whatever we're going through that day.
Thank you,
And
Coach.
I don't know if Neil Doherty did that, Coach, but I know that's part of the Kansas deal too that I got from Coach Braswell.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
How you doing, Coach Sprinkle? My name is Walter Fisher. I work at Governor State University as an NAI here in Illinois. What is the number one thing that your assistant can do that you don't ask for them to do to make your life easier?
Handle problems before they even get to me. And that's a conversation I actually had last week with 2 of my assistants. I don't need to know everything that's going on. If it's not that big of a deal, don't even bring it to my table. I don't need to know that this kid was 5 minutes late to the training room, if it's in the summertime. Now, if it's during the season, yeah, it's a problem. But little things like that, like handle that stuff. And sometimes you can get credibility with the players too, when you just take care of it. Like, hey, I'm not telling head coach, but hey, this is what you got to do. Now, if this BS happens again, it's going to be a problem. But, I think sniffing out problems even before they happen. The worst thing we want to do as a head coach is at the end of the semester, be like, oh yeah, he failed the midterm and now, he's got to get a 90 on the final to pass the class. Well, shit, it would have been nice to know that back in October, where we could have planned for it or done something extra. So kind of just having kind of seeing ahead, some of the issues that you may run into, and not just academics, but, on the court. Like if you say, hey, coach, we're going to be playing this team in 3 weeks, we got to start working on our zone offense now, and kind of seeing some of those problems that, we may not have time to see all those. Good question though.
Coach Sprinkle, thank you so much. I know you've got some other engagements that you have to get to. So we'll go ahead and let you get to it, but I appreciate you coming on and sharing your journey and giving your story to us over the last 45 minutes.
No, appreciate you guys, man. You're doing a hell of a job, hell of a thing. Appreciate you. Coach Woods, I'm going to be watching this on his YouTube live too.
Yep. All right, big dog. Good luck to you, man. Stay in touch.
Coach Sprinkle, I think me and Coach Woods probably owe you a dinner too as well.
We do. I owe you one.
Hey, and we're not doing it in Montana. I'm coming down there to do it too.
There you go. There
I know
you go.
You guys know how to do food down there.
There you go. There you go. There you go.
All right, fellas.
All
Thanks.
right, thank you, Coach Sprinkle. Next up, our next speaker is someone that's very close to me. He is our head coach here at Southern University. And I'm gonna be probably a little more in depth with my intro to him because he's been a guy that has, in a short amount of time, had a huge impact on my career. his teachings and his dealings over the last 2 years. And you know, I'm grateful to work for him because he's an outstanding person more than anything, more than a head coach and more than a boss. He's an outstanding man. You know, he's a guy that's shoot. He'll call me in the morning. This morning, actually, FaceTime me just so he can see my daughter. And that's the kind of man he is. He's a family man, family oriented man. And he's also a great coach as well. So I want to go ahead and introduce the head coach at Southern University, Coach Sean Woods.
Appreciate that, Rob Red. Guys, appreciate you listening. It was good watching Sprink talk. And before I go into my deal, I'm going to say one more thing, piggybacking with Coach Tig Price was talking about with Black Lives Matter, and I'm going to get off of that soapbox. But the things about these kids right now about not knowing Black history, first of all, is it's a different day. You know, we really didn't. We knew a little bit about Black history growing up, and I'm 50 years old. I graduated from high school in 1988. But we watch TV. You know, kids don't watch TV anymore. Don't watch anything history oriented. That doesn't attract them. You know, they don't sit still long enough to really gather anything that's significant about our history and our culture. That's because the world has changed now. You know, the world is so fast. You know, we live in a microwave society now, and we want instant success. We want instant gratification. And, you know, nobody sits down at the dinner table very often, you know, and talk about little things that we did, that the reason why we have common sense. And I don't think that young people now, I think they're very intelligent for what they need to have, but from a common sense standpoint on how to get along, that's thrown out the window. And like Coach Tig Price said, things hasn't changed as far as police brutality and very racist situations, things like that. It's just being filmed. That's just like things that's going on in the White House. We would never have known. Shoot, we don't know that the other presidents was just as crazy if we didn't have the internet and things like that. It's just a different world now. And it's a different kid now. And I had to change my coaching ways a little bit, because constructive criticism and being straight up with a young man nowadays is tough. They think you hate them if you're just being straight up with them. And I can only be who I was brought up to be, but now because the world has changed, if you want to stay in this business, you got to make the proper adjustments, and that's what I had to do. But you know, when you're hungry like me, coming from Gary, Indiana, you know, moving to Indianapolis, and then Coach Tig Price, he coached against me in the NCAA tournament. I played at Kentucky, and you know, had a little brief professional career, but my coaching career wasn't the same as other guys who I play with. And I'm not knocking them, you know, they took advantage of their opportunities, but I had to come up a little different, which made me more hungrier. You know, my first job wasn't at Eastern Kentucky or South Alabama or Wyoming or, you know, Sanford, things like that. My first job was at the lowest resource university, Division I university in America. And that was Mississippi Valley State. And at that time, still wasn't giving Pell Grant to their guys, to their athletes. At that time, really didn't have a gym. When I went to go watch where they lived at, the tile in the ceilings were missing, food up there, drinks, you know, and this is what I had to sell. And most people wouldn't have even taken that job in my position. But I come from humble beginnings, and I wanted a crack at it. And I put everything in my power, fellas, to be the best coach I could possibly be. And I became a sponge. I went all around people that I knew and watched them just how to organize a practice. But I was fortunate enough to coach for a guy who was a really good coach and never gets the credibility because he was a junior college coach most of his coaching career, had a great stint twice at South Alabama, and that's a guy by the name of Ronnie Arrow. I was fortunate enough to play for guys that are Hall of Fame coaches, won national championships. So I knew what the aura should be. I knew what organization was. I knew what expectation was from players and assistants. I knew how I watched Billy Donovan as a player, and he's a coach as a grad assistant, what his responsibilities were, how organized he had to be. Herb Sendek, how he recruited from a standpoint. Herb Sendek didn't have hardly a personality, but knew how to be creative and cut things out of a magazine and put it in a recruiting folder just to say something to a kid. I knew how organized they had to be. We were, as far as the scouting report was. And when I came into the SWAC, that was the knock on the league, was it wasn't a very organized league. And then what I wanted to do was I wanted to be the most organized coach in the deal. And I tell you what, guys, because I did that and I took pride in being organized, okay, and on top of trying to get my guys to be the best team, the toughest team in America, that's what got me over. You got to be organized. And those are the things that I was blessed to, coming up, playing at Kentucky, coaching under Ronnie Arrow. My first stint, Division I job, was at High Point University. Bart Lundy, who's the head coach at Queens College now, was the head coach at Queens before, got the job as the head coach at High Point, and we were the youngest staff in America. But we worked our butts off and lost in the championship game our first year in the Big South Conference. And then I left there. I was there for 2 years, and I went with Ronnie Arrow to Texas A&M Corpus Christi. And my main job, I knew as a young assistant, black assistant, I had to beat the bushes, and you got to make your name for being a recruiter and establishing relationships. Well, God blessed me to take the job at Texas A&M Corpus Christi, and I drove myself all around the state of Texas. And I established every relationship that I could with every to-do person in that state. And because in this profession, I'm just telling you guys right now, some of you guys, God willing, you're going to get an opportunity. But as Coach Tick Price would tell you, it ain't what you know in this business, it's who you know. And don't ever shun anyone. And I'm talking about from a high school coach to a guidance counselor, because you never know who's going to ask them about you. So right now, if you're a high school coach, you got to own your town. Because you got to have everybody in your situation believing in what you do. Now, are you going to win a state championship every year? No. But they know that you got a certain amount of pride that their kid is going to learn from to get them to the next level until you get to the next level. And that's one thing that I learned coming up in this business, that Ronnie Arrow was a demanding coach. Rick Pitino was a demanding coach for me as a player. And guys, on that staff, that was probably the best staff in all college basketball, in modern day basketball. Rick Pitino, Tubby Smith, Billy Donovan, and the two best coaches are the ones that are less known. It's Herb Sendek and Ralph Willard. So I've been blessed to see how it works from that standpoint. And I'm saying that's not the only way to do it, but I was blessed to see that. And Rick Pitino comes from the school of Hubie Brown. So Coach Ryan Price will tell you guys, what you got to do is you got to make it interesting to your players to be the best that they possibly can be. Not only do you get them to play hard, you got to get them to really buy in from a strategic standpoint of what you're trying to do from a scouting situation. And Coach Price will tell you that that's what we're big on. And one thing that I did do that when I came in and I inherited the staff, except I brought Coach Price with me, was when I talk about empowerment, I make every last one of them do a scout. They got to have their own scout. So if we're playing 30 games, all the scouting reports are tallied up between the four of them. And what they got to do is, in their scouting report, we got it so now that the players will call you out if your scouting report is not right. So when your players are involved like that and they're calling your coaches out, if they ain't got it right, you got something. So now the players hold the coaches accountable, and that makes the coaches have to really dig in and come with it from a strategic standpoint on how we're going to stop this team. So when the players are saying, okay, they'd like to do this, they like to do that, and then you're getting feedback from the players, now you're establishing a culture. And that's what I learned. It's got to be all man on deck, all hands on deck. And does it sound demanding? No, it's actually fun. Because, you know what I'm saying, if you're a competitor, okay, say for instance, when you were young and you heard about this dude on the other side of town being a good basketball player, and you one of the best basketball players on your side of town. So what you gonna do? You gonna go over to his side of town, or you see him at a basketball camp or whatever, you gonna sit there and watch him and say, man, why is this guy so good? What makes this guy so good? So if you're a dude that's trying to get at him, you're gonna watch what he likes to do all the time. So when you playing against him and you defending him, what you gonna do? You want to embarrass him. So you know if you want to crossover, you're gonna sit on it, you're gonna try to get him. Same thing with scouting in a basketball game. You want to break down as many things as you can and simplify it to your team so you prepared. And get them to do what? Buy in. And also it makes them want to pay attention. If you're paying attention, then you're gonna actually make that extra step knowing that guy's gonna go there. But you got to challenge your guys as a basketball player and a human being. If I'm better than you, then I'm gonna beat you to every freaking ball. Not that I'm just gonna score on you all the time. If I'm better than you, I should be able to beat you to that ball. If I'm better than you, I should be able to stop you, but you can't stop me. If I'm better than you, I'm gonna keep a level head where I'm gonna actually try to frustrate you. I can't play no more. And that's the only thing I hate, guys, about being a coach. Because I love competing, talking shit, trying to pose my will on the other person's point guard. Now what I do is I try to get my team to that point to where when I look down that other bench and he's calling timeout, that's my competitiveness saying, yeah, I'm busting your ass again. That's the only way I can do it. So that's why I put everything that I possibly can from an enthusiasm and passionate standpoint into my program and to my players, a certain type of competitiveness. And from a recruiting standpoint, I only recruit guys that are my type of guys. Everybody can't play for Sean Woods. If you don't have a chip on your shoulder or want to be great or even want to be a pro, whether you're a pro or not, I'm the wrong guy to play for because I'm going to push you and coach you harder than you ever been pushed and coached in your life to make you the ultimate competitor. And if you don't love it that much, it'll show real quick. And you'll know and I'll know that you're not the person or this is not going to work. So strategically, everybody said, well, this kid's talented. Well, he is, but I'm looking at the other things may not suit me. I may take a guy that is not as athletic or is not getting all the hype, but as if he's the ultimate competitor, he's going to bust that dude's behind. And those are the ones you're going to win with. And that was the thing that Coach Price Ryan Price knows. It ain't about how talented the kid is. Does he have that it factor and that motor? And that's what we live by now. We recruit a different type of kid. I want a kid that, we're starting to get a lot of transfers, which is a good thing, but I'm known for that. And guys that didn't have a great career the first 2 years or whatever at the school they were at, I'm going to give them an opportunity, but I'm going to coach the hell out of them. So when they do get that opportunity, they're going to be ready. And, Sprink was one reason why Ryan and I was talking about we own because we got a player, a 6'10" white kid from them, and didn't get that much time at all. He helped us win 17 games. and helped us win the last 14 out of the last 16 games. And now he's going to go make a lot of money, which he wouldn't have had that opportunity staying at Fullerton. And he came in with a chip on his shoulder. And actually, our team ended up being better than theirs. Those are the type of guys we win with. You want to establish that. Now, if you're a high school coach, you got to establish that culture coming in. You know what I mean? You don't have the choices that we have. You're a junior college coach. If that's your deal, you know exactly what you can coach and what you can't to be successful with. Some guys, sometimes, some players and kids who are highly talented may be good enough to get you beat. I try to stay away from those guys. So that's kind of my where I came up from and my motto. So if you guys have any questions, shoot at me.
Coach Woods, Pat Eberhard, I'm from the University of Nebraska, Omaha. My question is, I know you talked about player development. In your player development plan as you go through the season, when you're in the guts of the season and it's about prep and all that kind of stuff, how much player development is still a part of throughout the whole season, not just the preseason or whatever?
It's all year long. So
yeah,
we do individual workouts. Okay, when we get to conference, we play on Saturday and Mondays. Okay, that Monday, whether we're at home or away, all right, we're off on that Tuesday. We got individuals on Wednesday, just skill work on Wednesday. Then we do basic things on Thursday, prep on Friday, and Saturday we play because I run dribble drive offense. So if you can't dribble, pass, and shoot, you can't play for me. So I run equal opportunity offense too. So if you're playing for me, you got to be able to break your guy down. You got to be able to make the right play, and you got to be able to make shots. So it's just like anything else. It's like, you know what I'm saying? And we lift 3 times a week. So as teams are trying to simmer down, now my practices aren't very long. My individual, workout day is, player development day is not that long. It's 45 minutes to an hour. And we cut practice down to an hour and a half, but we're still getting stronger and still, keeping everything sharp. Because at the end of the day, you better have some Jim and Joes more so than them X's and O's, and you got to be able to make shots. You got to be able to, sustain your dribble. You got to be able to make crisp passes. So I think that all should go into a whole season. You go to the NBA right now, that's all they do. You go to NBA practice in the midst of a season, they come in there getting their shots up, working on whatever they do. I do the same thing.
Got it.
Coach Woods.
What's up?
What's the word? Jonathan Maddox.
Johnny B.
That was a good question. Coach Eberhard and I was fortunate enough to work for Coach Woods for over 3 years at Moorhead. And same thing here, we would play conference games Thursday and Saturday here, but every Monday we would do individuals and probably didn't understand the value of it at the time, but over the years, it really paid off for us. Coach, why don't you talk to these guys a little bit about being a program builder? You said you weren't fortunate like some other guys. Your first job was Mississippi Valley State. Then you were at Moorhead. Then you're at Southern. Talk about the steps to building a program, to being an upper echelon program in each conference that you've been in.
Well, Johnny, as you know, working for me and Ryan, as you know, working for me too, the main thing is your mental aspect. You got to go in with a great sense of confidence that what you're doing is going to work, and establish a toughness and a work ethic, and then in an organization with an organizational pitch. Johnny, what we call our deal, organized chaos. Everybody else thinks it's chaos, but we're organized as all outdoors. But right. It starts with your staff, and I've been fortunate to have great guys to work for me. But you know, they're the ones who's out there touching those guys more than me. And when they're all saying the same thing, you know, and it's consistent, there's no way to turn. You know, there's no point of least resistance. Kids always are looking for what? The point of least resistance. Man, coach, man, he too hard today, man. He ran us this, he ran us that, not knowing what the method of the madness is. But if you got one weak link, it can spoil the whole organization. So that's huge. And then you just got to be coming with it every day. And I'm the most consistent, energized guy that you'll ever meet. I don't have off days. I can be sick as a dog, but once those lights come on and it's time to get better, I'm all for it. And once that practice is over with, you know, I'm hoping I can get home to my house. But I love this so much because I come from Gary, Indiana, fellas, where pimps, wineheads, they taught me how to survive and how to be a competitor. And at the end of the day, it wasn't who was saying it, it was just the message. And if you got to surround yourself with people who want to be great, you got to recruit players that want to be great. And you got to continue to sell it when you're recruiting them. You know, the main thing I continue to say to a kid when I'm recruiting them, every conversation is, now I'm going to coach you and push you harder than you ever been coached and pushed before in your life. And every kid was like, yeah, coach, I want that. I need that. I want that. I need that. I said, hold on now. Now, remember now, every day ain't going to be a good day. It's going to be hot a lot of days. So I want you to go back to what I just said. And what did you tell me? Coach, I want to be a great player. I want to win. I want to be a pro. Okay. Well, we have making a pact. But the biggest thing with me is trust. And one thing I'll tell you right now is I never lie to you. I may be brutally honest, but I never lie to you. So when it does get hot, you can always go back to that conversation and you look them dead in the face and you make them say, I said, when I was recruiting you, what did I say every single day, every phone call? And they'll come back and say, you said that you was going to coach me and push me hard and you haven't coached and pushed me. I ever been coached and pushed before in my life. Okay. Did I lie to you? No. Did you say you wanted it? Yeah. You said you want to be a pro, right? Yeah. You said you want to be a championship, build a championship team, right? Yeah. Okay. So now you put it back on them. And guess what? Everybody who's around that locker room is feeling the same way because I told them the same thing. And every coach that's ever coached for me, I'm the same deal. We got to be superstars at what we do. Even though we at Mississippi Valley, even though we at Morehead State, even though we at Southern, okay, I only know one way, and that's to be great. And I want to leave every place I've been better than it was. But me personally, I just want to win. And I want to win the right way. And you only win by what you put into it. And I try to give my players everything I got. And if they're giving me 90% of that, that's going to be hard to beat my team.
Appreciate it.
Coach Woods, Vince Robinson, Miles College. How's it going?
Good, big dog.
Hey, you've been at two SWAC schools, Mississippi Valley and Southern. Kind of compared the situations. You went at both schools. I'm thinking Mississippi Valley was probably a little bit more difficult just because of the lack of resources and funding, but you know, you can elaborate on that a little bit with the Southern and Mississippi Valley, the differences and some of the similarities in the schools.
Well, I'll tell you what, they're very similar because, you know, we're a Southern, a HBCU in the South, both low resource institutions. The difference between, one difference is people don't know, I was selling Sean Woods to the fullest at Mississippi Valley. I had nothing else to sell but me in my past because I didn't have that much to sell. We couldn't give our kids Pell Grant. You know, you get a junior college kid getting Pell Grant at junior college, he comes to my school, wasn't getting a Pell. Didn't have facilities. So what I did was, and it made me grow up as a coach I took some kids that had a chip on their shoulders that was on their last leg. And when I took these kids, I'll never forget. I was in Orlando at a recruiting event, and two guys walked up to me and knew who the two guys I just got, and said, "There's no way in the world those two guys will exist. They'll drive you crazy, Sean." Well, those two guys helped me pretty much go undefeated and have one of the most historical runs in SWAC history. And they allowed me to, they helped me, but I put everything into them. Was it easy? No. But one thing I did do was I put my fist down and I loved them. And I told them, this is all our last chance. So we got to make history. In order for y'all to have any chance on playing professional basketball, we got to do something special. And we can't continue to do the same thing we did before we got here. And I just inherited a bunch of hungry dudes that was just bought in, and they knew that they were better than the league, but they loved playing basketball. And that was now I'm at Southern, has a little more following, a little more support, but you still have the same trials and tribulations being at HBCU, infrastructure-wise. But they're the same for the most part. I had a little more. From an administrative standpoint, it's a little different, but that's at every school. But for the most part, they're the same. It's the same mission, the same struggle. You just got to come in, and I'm just the type of guy that I got to do it my way, and I know my way works. And I'm not gonna step on anybody's toes, but I want to make it attractive enough to where everybody wants to be a part of it. And the one thing I did when I first got to Mississippi Valley, I wasn't a SWAC guy. So they kept looking at me and saying, "Oh, this dude from Kentucky, he gonna think he gonna come in here and do this in the SWAC and all this." I'm talking about referees treating me bad. Coaches wouldn't speak to me. I had no familiarity being in the Mississippi Delta. Me growing up, I would have bet you my life that I would have never had to live there. But when I first got there, nobody come to the games. That second year, that third year, I tell guys all the time, I use the bandwagon experiment. When you ride down that street and you first get there, they see you coming down the road. If they was sweeping or cutting the grass, they gonna cut the lawnmower off, they gonna stop sweeping, and they gonna run in the house. Sooner or later, you're gonna make it attractive enough that they gonna want to be a part of it. So when that by the end, when that bandwagon, you driving that bandwagon down that road, everybody want to jump on. And guess what? You let them jump on and let them feel it, because you need your folks got to sell you. And I think college basketball is what you make it. It's a passion. And what I'm trying to do is make it attractive enough to fill those stands. And I come from Gary, Indiana, with the pom-poms and I come from a black environment, to where it's packed and the cheerleaders jumping and the band rocking and Trouble Funk playing and all that. So I just want to create that type of atmosphere again to where it used to be. And we did that in Mississippi Valley, to where the fire marshal had to come in and close the doors because you couldn't get nobody else in there. And it was the hardest place in the SWAC to play. And last year, our second year, the last 10 games, we had that going in the mini dome at Southern. And the way we ended, it almost like God is making the anticipation even better the way it ended. So now people are thirsting to see how good this thing could be, because we got everybody back, and we're going to try to continue the situation. So you got to believe in it, man. You got to have a vision of your own. If you just going in there and you don't have a vision, this is going to be short-lived. I have a vision every day. I'm a dreamer. And, my dreams keep me going.
Hey, Coach. Coach. Hey, what's up, Coach Woods? It's Walt Fisher from Chicago.
What's up,
we know
Walt?
each other real
My
good.
man.
How you doing, Coach?
Love you, boy.
Well, I love you too, man. You've been like a big brother to me. You've given me a lot of advice, and I'm in the college game now, mainly because of guys like you. So I do want to
say I appreciate everything you've done for me up to this point. But I do want to ask you a question. Being that we from pretty much the same place and we got kind of the same temperament on the sidelines, I heard you say that you had to figure out a way to coach these new school kids. So what did you do to kind of adjust to kind of make yourself more, I guess, appeasable to these new school kids and not as brash as us from Chicago and Gary, Indiana? You know how we can get. And also too, man, when you're looking at your younger assistants that you're bringing onto your staff, what are 3 things that are must-have characteristics that they have to have? And like, what's one thing that'll really turn you off from a young assistant?
I'm gonna answer that one first. What are you looking for? Is they got to have the same temperament and the same enthusiasm and passion of being a college basketball coach. When I was an assistant, man, I had more energy than the head coach. I'm running up and down with the team as they playing. I always want to touch them. I always want to give. I always, what can I do to help this guy? Give my what made me attractive to any head coach was my experience. So if I'm an assistant coach and I played for Rick Pitino and I had success as a player, then that coach wants to know or use from my experience to make him better. He may know all the nuances and things like that, but I can reach that kid because I have credibility, or I have an enthusiasm to know how to jive with them, to motivate them to get done what the coach is trying to get done. So I'm looking for enthusiasm. 1, 2, bring in ideas. Don't be scared. A coach may say yeah or nay, but at least you want to be able to bring something to the table. Always, be a thinker, be in your office, not just recruiting, but come up with a play or two, and the stuff that we're running, shoot, come up with something that put your hand in the fire. Coach may take it, coach may not, but at least you're trying to give something to the deal. 3, man, you got to love this profession. You can't do this, you know what I'm saying? And you can't be a one-trick pony. You can't. I don't like the guy, well, I'm just a recruiter. Bullshit. Well, you ain't shit then. You know what I'm saying? You only going to go so far. You know what I mean? You want to be great at this. If you're a basketball guy, be a basketball guy, because you're selling me. And I don't need you and look like you somebody. You know what I'm saying? Look like you're an attractive person, because it's just like when you're working for a Fortune 500 company. You're the first point of contact. So before that name that you're selling gets into their soul, you got to get into them first. So now if my players are feeling my assistance and they know my assistance is coming from me, oh man. Now you got something. You want to be the best at a scout because you show me that you're a competitor. And what was your last question, Walt?
I asked you what would be one thing that absolutely turn you off to a younger guy that you're thinking about.
Yeah.
And then I asked you about your temperament and how you've adjusted.
Okay. The one thing that turned me off, man, is being complacent and lazy. And I got to look over your shoulder every time to make sure you're doing something that I need you to do. If I got to keep telling you the same thing over and over again, then you're not the one for me. And you're not the one for this program. If I'm telling you got to check class every day, there's a reason why I'm telling you check class every day. Because, when you coaching young men, you talking about Black Lives Matter, I'm very prideful in the academic piece. And every school I've been to, and Jonathan Maddox and Coach Price could tell you, we've had the highest team GPA in that school's history. I came to Southern University, the prisoners were running the asylum. There was no discipline. And we only won 7 games, and it was a clusterfuck every freaking day. But one thing I established my deal on, if you establish discipline going to class every single day, and you stick to it, I ain't got to yell, fuss, and fight no more. If you don't go to class, okay, you already know what's going to happen. And I'm going to make it the worst thing you've ever done. I'm going to treat you like you murdered somebody. And I'm going to make it the hardest day and I'm going to make you want to quit. And they're not going to think about that anymore because that's important. not just getting a C and getting along, get a B or an A. That's my job. So when I recruit a kid, that's what I give back to that parent. That I make sure that he's going to graduate, and he's going to graduate legitly and feeling like he accomplished something. I got a kid on my team right now from Baltimore, Maryland. Hated school. Never thought he'd ever be good at school. Went to prep school, came out. Dad even told me, Coach, you know, he ain't gonna like school, man. Guess what? He loves it. Getting over 3.0. Majoring in business. So those are the things. So I make my assistants, you know, check class every day. That's part of the method of my madness. So if you're not carrying out, and I got to continue to ask you to do these things or look over your shoulder every time, then you're not the guy for me. Because I want somebody to be just as great as me. And then I want somebody to push me and be looking at other things, the way other people do things, to bring new ideas to me. You know, if I'm the CEO, you want CFOs and account execs and all that to make you look good. And that's what I want to do. And that's why I'm so big on empowering my guys, from the way they look to the way they present themselves and to the way they approach and diffuse situations with players. And I want to feel their passion and energy just as much as I feel mine. And the last thing is, what was the deal about? Oh, what I had to do was, I mean, guys, I come up from Chicago, Gary, and I challenge my players. And it's just a different world now. And Coach Tick Price has been through it. I've been through it. You know, we can't, as Black coaches, can't get away with what we think we should get away with. And I've never deliberately done anything, but you can't attack a kid to get to and motivate it as much as we used to, or as I was coached. But I'm still that same guy now. But you just gotta understand that certain kids ain't for you, and you gotta watch out, because, you know, like Coach Price is saying, internet and things like that. You know, that's why recruiting is very important for me, and I gotta recruit guys that can play for me. And you know, that's very crucial in my success, because the situation that happened to me and Johnny Maddox can attest. I recruited the wrong kid. And there was a kid that I spent a lot of time with. And he had some situations, but I missed in recruiting. The one time I missed a parent, and I missed on this one. And I didn't coach this kid no more than I coach anybody else. And it cost me. And, you know, I don't know if, you know, those guys playing. I don't know. I think there's a reason why I'm at Southern University, because my career was going so fast and I was having so much success. That next year, I knew I was going to be at a high mid major or a Power 5 school. But for some reason, I'm at Southern University. And guess what? My vision and my dream is to make Southern University the most attractive and most notable basketball school in the United States. And I think I'm heading in the right direction. And that's how I look at things, fellas. You know, you got to change with the times. And, you know, the game has changed, kids have changed, but I'm in a position to where I'm going to take what I can take, and I may take the lesser deal, and I'm going to kick your ass with the dude that's tough enough that could take Sean Woods, more so that one dude that don't want to be coached as much.
Coach Woods, what's up? What's up, Coach Woods? Coach AJ, man, Chicago, Illinois.
What's up,
man?
AJ? Another RWA.
Man, yeah, we in the building, man. Question for you. Every year, you know, you get a different group of kids in the locker room every year. How do you get those guys to come together? And how do you adapt to the players? Because, you know, like some coaches say you can't coach every team the same way. So how do you get your players to come together? And how do you adapt to your players? Or how do you change how you coach each team every year?
Well, you know, I have 14 new players this year, you know, and it was a task, but it was probably the best job. This season was probably the best job I had ever done as a head coach. Starting from scratch, brand new team. establishing a culture, a toughness. Some guys could stand it, some guys wouldn't, but you just got to continue to stick to your guns. And your first year or two, everybody not gonna stand it. You may have a couple guys that leave, and that's what happened this year. I only lost 2 guys, but they didn't play very much because they didn't fit the mold. You got to stick to your guns, as far as that's concerned. I hope, and Ryan's my recruiting coordinator. I hope we don't have to sign 14 new guys again. I think we got a great nucleus now. So and you want your players to sell you and your program. So that's what we got now. I was lucky enough for my point guard I was talking to you about from Baltimore. He was one of the guys that stuck around. Only one guy and 2 walk-ons that sold the vision to these guys, these 14 new guys, and they stuck to it. And it ended up being a beautiful thing towards the end. And hopefully we can continue it.
Thanks, Coach. I appreciate you, man.
No doubt.
Coach Woods, Dave Bentley here.
What's up, Dave?
What's up, Coach? Hey, I just wanted to ask you, obviously picked up on your, you're full of energy all the time. And I just want to ask you, kind of hit on it a little bit ago with kind of what happened at Moorhead. And I obviously, observed that. I just want to know what you learned most about yourself kind of in that time after that going into Southern.
You got to be, you can't, I was a guy because I played for a guy like Rick Pitino, who's very passionate. And I've come from Gary, Chicago area, where coaches are very passionate. And it's almost like a manhood deal where they're testing your manhood to make you go out there and tough enough to go out and compete against him because, you know what I'm saying? You can't do that anymore. You can't get up in somebody's face and, other coaches can. We can't. And you guys have seen it. And I'm big on discipline. I'm big on, teach not only the game of basketball, but the game of respect. And I want my players to respect my assistants. And they better respect my assistants or I'll jump them. So it's a respect thing. And once that young man, because most young men nowadays, fellas, if you get one that's only raised by a single mom, they have a certain defense mechanism with a black male. That's just natural. They don't want no black male coming there, to the house. And if they are dating their mom, the kid looking at him sideways, and if the man say something to the kid, man, you ain't my daddy. That's what the world we live in now. So you got to establish a trust first. And I'm doing that more on the front end in the recruiting process, winning the parent or the AAU coach or whatever. And plus, I've established a reputation already that I'm a tough guy and I'm going to push you, but I'm going to love you hard too. So pretty much a lot of the guys who we're recruiting kind of know what type of guy I am. But I love hard, man. And I love even harder because I push them that hard. So when they can separate the two, then you'll be all right. So that's what you got to do. You got to establish that trust. And everything I do is with trust, And if Coach Price and Coach Maddox will tell you, if I feel any type of resentment or any type of deal where I don't trust that kid and he's trying to be a locker room lawyer, I'm trying my best to get rid of him because they will get you. You know what I'm saying? And you trying to get away from that. And, I have a sixth sense of it because of my situation, but I missed on that one at Moorhead. And I love that kid and still love him. It's unfortunate, but that's just how I, that's just how I got to do, I deal with it.
Thanks, Coach.
Coach Woods, Coach Waddell, Greensboro, North Carolina, Middle Smith High School. Had a quick question on your coaching philosophy and your team philosophy.
Well, my coaching philosophy defensively, I pressure, but I really play up the line, pack line, trying to keep the ball out of the middle, forcing the ball baseline. I run and jump a lot just to create pace and use my depth. That's why I like to play a lot of guys and keep a lot of guys happy, because we play so hard and so fast that it's hard to play 7 to 8 minutes straight without being tired. Offensively, you know, I run 4 out, 1 in, I run dribble drive, but I run a freelance deal where you got to be able to make a play. And should nobody be able to stop you one-on-one. And once you go by one-on-one, either you get into the rim, 5-man steps up, you got a layup or lob, or the guy playing weak side over playing the other guy up the line. If you get him to draw, then you kick. Now you got the defense in what? A help recover situation. Now you got them going. And I want to stay aggressive trying to get that ball into the paint, because once the ball gets to the paint, either you're going to get a wide open 3 because they're all sunk in, okay, or they're staying out. That 5-man's got to step up. And if he does, you're getting a wide open layup for a 5-man. And our 5-mans, the way we play, average at least, you know, for the most part, shoot at least no less than 55% from the field, because they're getting them the layups and dunks.
Right.
And I'm big on, like I told you, player development. So guys, the way I play, they really want to work on their game so they can do a little bit. I let them play with it a little bit just to go by and make plays for others. And my thing is, you bust your behind defensively and you rebound, you dominate that team on the glass. That gives us opportunity to play faster. And then also, I'm going to let you do your thing. You know, I'm not going to make you come in the gym every day and shoot 500 shots and tell you don't shoot. That makes no sense. You putting in the work, you know. How can I tell you not to shoot the ball? Now, you may not be a game shooter, but I can't tell you, I'm sitting there watching you make a lot in practice, you know, but sooner or later, you'll figure it out that that's not your thing. And then what you're going to do, you're going to become a better playmaker, go offensive rebound and go score or whatever. But my thing is, I just try to create a competitive situation on offense and defensively, on offense and defensive end, that you can't stop me one-on-one, and I'm not going to let you, you know, beat me one-on-one. And we're so disciplined enough to where we're going to hedge and get back and run you off the 3-point line. So that's my deal. It's simple, man. You know, I tell people all the time, you know, they ask me, how do I get teams to play so hard? It's nothing that I can say. You just got to come watch practice.
Yes, sir. Coach, tell them a little bit about the rebounding, from the rebounding standpoint too, because your teams are always known as great rebounding teams.
Well, it's a mentality. You know, I challenge everybody. If I see a kid that's in practice and don't go after a ball, then that's his behind. You know, basketball is a competitive sport, and the most important thing is the ball. And if you're not busting your ass to go get that ball, or beating that guy to go get the ball, and it's not a drill that I do, it's just an expectation. And, you know, we don't give up on plays, and we want to dominate you on the offensive end. That's another way of domination. And that's another way you sell your guys to compete against the other team, is we establish that deal in practice. If I see you not going for a ball at all, oh no, that's no good.
Coach Woods.
Coach Woods, how's it going?
Cambridge, Maryland, Girls High School. I got a question. With HBCUs kind of put in the forefront now with the big, you know, commit the last couple of weeks. How are you pushing your brand forward now? And you talking to your assistants about pushing, you know, the HBCU thing how are you getting out there more? And if I was to come, I'm a recruit, I'm coming on your campus, Southern campus, what would be the first place that you would take me?
First of all, let's just get this out in the open. Let's be straight up, okay? They're talking about these high major guys thinking about going to HBCUs, and the one kid is going to Howard. My thing is this, you know, I think if you're going to do that, you better go to a place where you know, because you're a pro. You already think you're a pro. You're probably one and done or whatever, okay? So you got to make sure that kid knows that his player development is highly important. 1. Okay. 2, it's got to be a straight up situation. You can't sugarcoat it, because we are who we are, okay? Even though we got the mini dome and it's big and it's nice, it ain't Rupp Arena. You know what I mean? It ain't the Yum Center at the University of Louisville. It ain't freaking the Carrier Dome of Syracuse or the Dean Dome. So you got to be realistic and be straight up with them. Okay. Then if it becomes a relationship situation, all the ducks got to be lined up, because one thing I'm not going to do is bring in a kid and let him disrupt what I'm doing and think it's all about him. I can't do it. So we got to be honest with these HBCU coaches and things. That we got to be honest with the kid, because if you tell him something, they're looking and they already gone. They getting recruited by the best in the business, and they coming to you. Okay, one is because of making a statement. Two, somebody's convinced them for it. You understand? I'm convinced them to do it. All right. So you got to diffuse the expectation and bring that kid down to why is he really wanted to consider HBCU. Okay. Then you sell him on the basketball piece and what you always done. I'm going to make sure you go to class. I'm going to hold you accountable. Okay. I'm going to make you the best player. I think I can make you just as good as any coach in America. But if you're looking for something else besides that, then we might as well squash this right now. But if that's what you're looking for, and you ain't looking for the glam and glitter, you're looking for the relationship and the belief that this black man is going to help me get and is what I need, and my folks know him and believe in him, then that's why I'm coming. And you got to keep it 100 just like that. And I think now these kids, because of this Black Lives Matter, are looking for that. They looking for us now, fellas. They need us. You dig what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, we got white coaches now, and I'm not knocking them. I'm not proud. I got some of the white coaches, some of my best friends. Okay, but they don't know how to be us, and they're calling us, asking us, "I'm with you, but what can I do?" When we already know it. So reality is setting in now. Parents will start, you know what I'm saying? It's different now. So they're coming at us in a whole different light. It ain't about the commercial no more. We done been bamboozled. We're tired of being bamboozled. So we just got to be prepared to be straight up and stay who we are as black men. So when these kids do come to us, because they do need us, they with us up until they go to college. Most of the AAU coaches is black, especially ones from the inner city. So they coming to the same thing, and guess what? Now they're starting to stay in what? Their comfort zone, where they're not lied to and they're seeing things happen the way they are. Because if you're a pro, you're a pro. And everybody on this deal knows it. No matter where you are, if you are a pro, you are a pro, no matter what school you go to.
Coach Woods. It's Coach McCall, Sacramento High School. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Just want to ask you about program building and what you've done at the previous places you've been to build the fan base. Obviously winning, and selling yourself gets people there. But what have you done to, nurture relationships, build relationships, and get the community and the student base to really want to support your programs?
Well, you just got to go out and meet and greet. But the main thing is, excuse me, fellas, because my phone's going dead. I got to get my cord. The main thing is not only do you want to win. I learned this from Rick Pitino, and now John Calipari is doing it. You got to make it attractive. You got to make it so that people want to be a part of it. Not winning is one thing, but an attractive product takes you a lot longer. It creates more excitement. And I think that comes with style of play.
Right. Gotta have an exciting brand.
That's what I really, try to bank my deal on, is try to make my style of play as attractive as possible to make it fun to watch. And so when you're winning and you're fun to watch, and your players got the same enthusiasm you do, and they pumping their fists and all that, and guess what? It becomes contagious to the crowd, and then now it's a love affair.
That's a great answer, Coach. Thanks so much.
All right.
Coach Woods, how's it going? This is Deontay Ferguson over at Tusculum University.
What's up, D?
Man, all's well. How you doing?
Doing the best I can what I got.
I feel it. So I was obviously at Moorhead as a player and as a GA, and then I got the chance to play under Ronnie Arrow for a year before he decided to retire. What are some things that you would say, you took from that you took from him as a young coach, working under him that you continue to implement in your coaching philosophy now today?
Well, first of all, being organized and really sticking to your guns. When I first got there, and then also paying attention to everything in your program. But when I first got there, he ran this deal, defensively. I couldn't stand it. He didn't like pressuring the basketball, which I come from Rick Pitino. We press. You better get to that midline. You know about that midline. And fronting the post, and then quick touch. You remember that? Playing for him?
Yeah, for sure.
Huh?
For sure.
And by the time I left him, and when I first got my head coaching job, I went to that. And most of my teams every year have been one of the top teams defensively. And I challenged my guards because I switched 1 through 5, and he did too. So my guards are down there, fronting the post, fighting, and I still expect them to do what? Block out the big guy and try to get a rebound. So that's the mentality. He just created a tough, hard-nosed mentality. And I saw how he pushed guys, and I took that more so than anything else, and tell you what, Ronnie Arrow was the first coach to let me be, who made me realize that I could be really good in this business because he let me grow. He let me be a part of things, took some of my ideas, and he let me show my enthusiasm and passion in practice.
Appreciate it, Coach.
Coach Woods, how you doing?
Good.
This is Coach T right at in Gulfport, Mississippi, at West Harrison High School. Man, I was fortunate enough to attend Mississippi Valley State when you first got there in 2008. But I played football, not knowing that my path was gonna take me to basketball. I played for Coach Todd and all them guys, man. And the one thing I regret, I didn't do it with you, but I did it with Coach Green. I came and watched practice, and I try to tell these other guys, man, make that network with the guys at your university, because you never know what you about to do, especially if you about to be in coaching. But how can you help a guy I'm a high school coach and I'm trying to get into the college level? What is your advice for that?
Man, you just got to continue to network, and go to as many functions as you possibly can, and just show guys that you're hungry. There's a guy right now, man, and I tell you what, every time I think about him, I tear up because I saw how relentless he was, man. And he's at Coastal Carolina right now. And he just worked, always put himself into place, always looked good, professional, had his resumes out, always was, he was acting like an assistant coach when he was an assistant coach, recruiting players, knowing about players. Because what you want to do is you want to be informative, man. That's what we need as assistant coaches, recruiting, and head coaches. We're looking for informative people to help us find players and so on and so forth. So continue to put yourself into place, man, and don't ever be embarrassed for being humble. Get what I just said? Don't ever be embarrassed for being humble. And being humble is being hungry and showing people that this is what you really want to do. Because passion is very contagious, big dog. And enthusiasm is off the charts that can't nobody even run from. So if this is what you really want to do, you do what you're doing right now to the best of your ability. And anytime somebody sees you, they're going to remember you. And sooner or later, somebody's going to look at you that can help you and bring you up at the right time.
Appreciate it, Coach.
Yep.
Man, Coach Woods. Coach Pat here, Alabama A&M, man. What's going on?
What's up, boy?
Man, Coach, I don't have a question, man. Just wanted to come on and say what's up, man, and tell you that the staff said what's up too, man. I tried to get Coach Howard on, but he said he was doing something with the wife.
Yeah, he got that honey-do list, big dog.
Yeah, that's good, Coach.
Hey, but I love you guys, man.
Love you too, Coach.
All right.
Coach Woods, Eric Rigg from Bloomsburg in PA. I'm the student assistant. So like you talked about like your players and constructive criticism earlier. So like how do you guys keep your players like fully engaged and confident throughout the season, or like even up after like maybe screwing up a play? And are there any specific things or teaching points that you use?
I've done a better job since I've gotten older, man, of bringing guys back in and explaining, and letting them see for themselves. Two things that really tick me off. First of all, if you're not playing hard, you're not competing. Two, you're making the same mistake over and over again. That means you're not paying attention. That means it's not that important to you because you're smart enough to not make the same mistake over and over again. So then you explain to them, okay, you show them to them, say, this is what I'm talking about. And I've gotten better at that, of coming back afterwards, not right back, because you want them to feel it a little bit, and then come back and say, man, do you understand what I'm saying? Do you understand? And make them accountable, and when they know, yeah, coach, you're right. So now when you do it the second time, you ain't really got to yell at them no more. All you got to do is give them, look at them strange or something like that, and they're gonna look like, you're right, coach, I got you. So you just got to be consistent with it, but you got to communicate more, because by the time we got to college, we were coached hard. So we knew what and what not to do, know if the coach was going to demand this or, put up with this, not put up with that. These kids now don't know what you put up with or don't put up with anymore, and you got to explain the whole time. But your expectations and your demands cannot waver.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Coach Woods, how's it going, fam?
Good.
Dre Gray, UNC Greensboro.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. I see this year you guys are number 34 in the country in home court advantage and number 1 in the SWAC. What do you attribute that to?
Well, like I told you before, you got to have a product, man. Win is one thing, but shoot, it's got to be fun to watch, and, sometimes, man, let me tell you something. Dennis Rodman is probably the smartest man in the world. You want to know why? Because acting crazy and doing something sells, man. And you got to have something that's attractive, and you can't be stoic over there and your teams can't play stoic. Your team has got to have a passion and enthusiasm, which brings everybody else to it, man. So that's my deal, My thing is I coach not because of the fortune or fame. I coach because I can't play no more. And I'm so competitive that I want to beat you and your coach at making my guys better at what we do, better than what you got your guys doing. So that's my method to my madness.
And secondly, if you decide to fire Ryan Price, I want a job.
You got it. But I ain't never fired him, though. I ain't never fired him.
Hey, Coach Wood, man, I don't know about that. You gonna have some competition for that spot. I got players.
I'm good, man. Let me tell y'all something, man. And Ryan and Coach Maddox are the test to it, man. You know what I mean? I'm only as good as them. So, if he ever leaves me for some reason, you better be on point because, it's you got some big shoes to fill.
Trust me, man. I'm always bothering Ryan trying to pick his brain and figure out what's going on.
Hey, and plus, I ain't never get rid of him because he got my heart in his house every single day, and that's his little daughter. Me and his dad fight all the time just for time. His dad trumped me right now, so, because of this Corona deal. But, once this Corona deal over with, Coach Tig Price in trouble with Bella.
Thanks, Coach.
Coach Woods,
Yes.
Good UTSA. A couple people know this. I'm a pretty big numbers guy. You know, when we graded things out, just looking them up, you were number one in the SWAC in first half performance. What do you kind of contribute that to? It's actually a huge disparity between your first half performance and second half performance. But what you just jumped on people, you know, like, so what do you kind of attribute that to, that your rating was so high coming out of the gates?
Shoot, I thought because we were prepared, you know what I'm saying? We were losing games because earlier, you know, because we didn't know how to win. We were young. As a team, we were young, you know? So when you put 2 Division I transfers in with 5 junior college kids and 4 high school kids, none of them have really, the 2 transfers really didn't play where they were. The junior college kids never played Division I basketball.
Yep.
And the freshmen are wet behind the ears, don't know how to win at this level.
Yeah.
You know, so that's why we were tanking at the end. We didn't know how to finish. We didn't know how to win.
I got you. That makes
you
sense.
Know,
and you guys,
we were playing hard enough and everything like that, but then we will sizzle out towards the end. And then once after the 3rd game in the league, we found out how to win and we know how to sustain.
Yeah,
and,
no, it's true. It's true. You guys dropped 9 straight, and then you guys won 14 out of 16. So no, I like I said again, everything that you said, your profile matches your rebounding. You guys, always the top in the rebounding.
Then if you start looking at the scores, we didn't lose no less than we didn't have we only had 1 game at that time that we lost. I mean, we went under double figures.
Yep. No, I know you're everything you said about your profile, how it lines up with the analytics. So again, whatever you're saying, and some people that don't always happen. So you're that kind of dude. I appreciate that. It's authentic.
Coach
Coach
Price.
Price.
About Adam Hood. Adam Hood might be the best analytic dude in the country. He'll probably be able to give you some numbers going throughout your whole head coach career. We're done tonight.
No, it is. Rebounding has been, like I said, rebounding offensively, offensive rebounding percentage, defense rebounding percentage, and then your turnover percentage defensively. Creating turnovers have been elite your whole career, no matter what stop you've been at. First year at Southern was a little bit different. Your first couple years at Mississippi Valley was different. But when you got your guys in, as it looks like from the outside, you have established a routine, a culture, and it's equated to winning. So hats off to you.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it.
Sean Woods. Okay, guys, we're gonna go ahead. We got about 2 more questions left for Coach.
Coach Woods, Mike Scott, Cal State Bakersfield. What's going on?
What's up, Mike?
What's going on?
One of my guys.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I got chills listening to you, man. You're always motivated. And even if we could be talking about coffee, man, you have us motivated to go get out on the court. But I got a 2-part question for you. Give me a typical day as a head coach in your shoes, and then give me a typical day for your perfect assistant.
Okay. First, like I told you before, I don't like having to be over my coach's shoulders. If I got to do that and they can't handle day-to-day responsibilities, then I don't need them. I need guys to take things off my plate. Be as enthusiastic about our program and the success of our program on and off the court as me. So if I'm in the office a lot, that's a problem, unless I just got to be there for, preparing and things like that. So I because if I'm in there, then Coach Price and Johnny Max will tell you, I'm always asking questions. I'm like, and I don't like that, because I wouldn't want to be like that as an assistant, So you just got to have guys and mold guys to be just like you, want to be great. And if they don't have that DNA, then those not the guys, because I want every guy on my staff to want to be a head coach. And Tubby Smith told me that a long time ago, that he don't want to hire anybody who don't want to be a head coach. And that means I don't want to hire anybody who don't want to be great. And I got a testament to that. I got 3 guys in my I've been a head coach 12 years. I got 3 guys who've been Division I head coaches. And You know, Dylan Howard is at Alabama A&M right now, and I'm just telling you right now, everybody talking about me because I'm a veteran team. He was full of freshmen, and you know, ended up pretty doggone good with all freshmen last year, and he's only going to continue to get better and better and better. So, you know, and he was a guy who, when you mention Sean Wood's success as a head basketball coach, you got to throw Dylan Howard in there because he's been my right hand man, you know, the whole way, and so you know that's what I'm used to, and he was great, and he taught Chico Potts how to be great. He taught Brian Ellis, B.J. Ellis how to be great. You know, Jonathan Maddox. You know, he hired my staff. I never hired my staff. He did, and not until I got to Southern did I ever hire my staff. And so I want guys to take that type of responsibility. You know, like right now, you know, Ryan can attest. I mean, shoot, I put more on him. At first, he didn't know my method of my madness. And then, you know, I'm saying, which one you want? You want this responsibility so I can groom you, or you don't, and you'll never be prepared. You know, you don't never want to be stable, and you never want to be content. And even though you working for Coach Barnes right now, you want to grasp everything that Coach Barnes has, but still, you got to take some things from, you know what I'm saying, from other people. So when your time comes to move up and move along, you prepare because you want to be the best at this business. You know what I'm saying? And don't take, you know, recruiting or whatever, you know, be creative, you know, and just like being a basketball player, be the best motivator you can be. What you bring to the table, it's just like a player. You know what I'm saying? I'm recruiting you because you bring us something that I like. That's going to make my team better. Same as an assistant. What you going to bring to me that's going to make me better and make our program better.
Got time for one more question.
Coach Woods, my name's Caleb Cooper. I'm an assistant at the Westtown School. I just wanted to kind of ask you on what you've been doing over quarantine to kind of improve your craft. What are some things that you've been doing as professional development resources to kind of get you better prepared moving forward in your career?
Man, I'm talking to other coaches. Me right now, it's more, you know, I watch NBA a lot. I get quick hitters from them. But what I'm actually doing now is I'm going back and looking at documentaries and books on different things, you know, to motivate not just my players, but my staff. And not only that, but administration to get everybody on the same page. Because being a head coach sometimes, man, you guys missed it. It was a beautiful thing. Coach Tick Price can attest to it. We had, I think, 89 of all the 91 head black coaches, Division I coaches in America on one Zoom call. And when you become a head coach sometimes, fellas, it can be lonely. And what I mean by lonely is because you feel like you got to set the example and set the tone every day, and you don't want to miss because you don't want to lose that respect and that culture, and you don't ever want to show a sign of weakness. But we're human too, and you know, I had to call Coach Tick Price the other day and just lean on him a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Just because of some things that I'm going through that you guys wouldn't even think about. You know, you just think about, you know, Sean was this hard-nosed, tough guy, you know, so and so and so. But, you know, there's some trials and tribulations that I go through too, and every head coach or coach, period. But you got to be able to be human, and you got to stay very humble and feel like you ain't good enough. Every day I feel like I ain't good enough. So I'm always on the edge of trying to be better. And that's just the way I go about it. You know, I'm scared. You know, I come from, you know, the streets of Gary, Indiana. And, you know, old Winehead told me a long time ago as a kid, you know what I'm saying? He said, you keep doing what you're doing, but always remember, you just a slip on a banana peel for bringing your ass back to where I am. And I'm just trying to keep my head grounded and straight, you know, straight to the ground, making sure that I don't slip on that banana peel.
Appreciate it, Coach.
Yep. Coach Tick Price, I got one deal for you. You can sum this up, and then Jonathan Mattis.
Coach Woods, Coach,
You gone?
I'm gonna tell you, Tick Price been asleep for about an hour now.
Okay.
He got curfew.
Johnny B, you still on?
Yes, sir.
Just, if just, all these guys, they're aspiring assistant coaches. You're Price, Price, they know Price because they talk to him every day. I mean, every week. Just if you had to sum up, if all these guys want to know, okay, what is it about Sean Woods? You work for me just as much as Coach Price has. Go ahead and sum it up as much as you can, or what it's like and the method of my madness and what you learned with me and since I've been gone.
Right. The couple things I'll say, and I think Coach Sprinkle mentioned assistants bringing energy. Well, Coach Woods, with him, it was easy because, like he said, he never takes a day off. He never has a bad day. So whether it's in the office, in the film room, in practice and workouts, he set the tone for us. Now we had to follow suit. We had to bring energy, but with him, it was easy because he set the tone. At the same time, he also held us very accountable as assistants, even though he's not a micromanager. And I'm sure Price can tell you, we still whether it's flash checks, scouting reports that he's mentioned, all of that stuff. Practice prep, whatever it is, he's not going to micromanage you, but he's going to expect you to be on top of whatever your responsibilities are. So, we took that very seriously, and we, like Price is the recruiting coordinator there. Dylan Howard was the associate head coach here. He was in charge of so whatever we were in charge of, we were the head coach of that deal. Whether it was scheduling, whether it was recruiting, whether it was scouting report, whether it was academics, whatever it was, we were the head coach of that. So he expected us to be on top of it. And if he ever had a question, he hey, I need to go to Coach Price about this. I need to go to Coach Maddox about that. But we had to be on top of it. Because if not, he was great about coaching us. He's going to coach us as assistant coaches just as hard as he coaches the players. So we knew we had to have everything, have all our I's dotted and our T's crossed. From a playing standpoint, probably the biggest thing I learned, and he's mentioned it a number of times, was just the competitive culture that he set from day one. When I got here, he was going into his second year here, and we won 20 games that year and kind of took off from there. But it was like we go to St. Louis, we beat St. Louis in a bye game. We go to, Murray State was top 25. We're playing them in the conference semifinals. We're up 10 on campaigning them with, under 5 to go. And it was just the competitiveness every day, from individuals to practice, whatever it was. It was a competitive culture that he set from day one. And that's why we were able to overachieve. And he used that word a lot too, every day in the office. We got to figure out what we're going to do to overachieve here, because Morehead State isn't, one of the top jobs in the OVC, but we had to figure out what we had to do to overachieve. And we did that just by being competitive every day, whether it was a one-on-one drill and individuals, whether it was, he talked about rebounding, and people would always ask me, Morehead State, y'all lead the league in rebounding. What drills do y'all do? And I told them, we don't do a drill. It's just a mindset. It's just like Coach Woods said, if somebody don't go after a ball, they're going to know about it, because that was important to him, and it was important to us, but it was important to him because he knew what it took to be a winner. So just the competitiveness, the toughness, that you set from day one, Coach, I think that took us over the top. And like you said, you could sprinkle in the X's and O's, the dribble drive, the one game high low, whatever it is. But I think that's, and you've done that at Valley. You did that here. You're doing it at Southern now. That's what separates you I believe as a head coach.
Price.
Yeah. Well, I guess my time, shoot, I've been with Coach now, I just finished my second year. But I think the main thing, and Johnny mentioned it, was the accountability thing, holding guys accountable, including the staff. And, for us, it was a different deal. I was on a Zoom last night with David Bentley, and I kind of gave different things that I had learned from different guys that I had worked for in the past. And the one thing I can say about what Coach is, he holds you to a high standard because he wants you to be a pro at the things you do, and not just as a coach, but also as a player. When we bring a kid in, Coach will, that's going to be the first thing he asks them. Do you want to be a pro? And naturally, every kid is going to say they want to be a pro, but he's going to put the work. He's going to make you work like no other to be a pro. And it's the same with his staff. He holds everybody to a high standard. And I think that is, a reason why a coach has had the success that he's had at every stop that he's been at, because he holds guys accountable. And I share this story. I don't mind sharing it here, but I've even shared it with Coach. Like with Coach, when I first got with Coach and we started, and I've never been anywhere with a head coach that required the staff to check class every day. That was something completely, that was a shock for me. But I knew what it was about. I knew it was because he genuinely cared about his guys. He wants his guys to do well academically. And it's holding them to a degree. It's not a punishment for us, but it's to hold guys to a certain standard. And that's the main thing with Coach. Like, I just think he's a guy that just genuinely gets it and wants to do well and does do well. And, I think everything that we do off the court goes on to the things that we do on the court, as far as accountability and doing those things. So, the main thing, and Coach uses the word all the time, is accountability. So, that's our main thing, and that's what we try to do with our guys. But I think Johnny hit the nail on the mark with a lot of things. We're gonna bust the ass on the floor like no other. I mean, and it's things that I look at. You've got to be able to bring your energy, and it starts with him. He takes no days off whatsoever. Whether it's in the office, whether we're in a staff meeting, if we go over, even just to check the weight room, he's gonna bring that same passion and energy on the court. So, and that's the thing that trickles down. We bring it every day. We got to bring it every day. There's no days off. If you got a shitty day going into the day or going into practice with coaches or players, you got to put that shit to the side. So, it's been a pleasure working for Coach over the last 2 years. And I'm not just saying it because he's on here. I think I said it last night for anybody that was on David's platform, but he's allowed me to grow more than just about any other coach that I've ever worked for in my 13 years as a coach.
With that, fellas, I appreciate y'all listening. Coach Price got my number on this deal. My number showing on this thing, right, Coach?
No, but I can put it in for you, Coach.
You guys have any questions, man? Need some advice, anything like that? Don't hesitate to give me a shout, man. We all in this thing together, but you're gonna be rewarded if you just, lose yourself in what you're doing, trying to be the best that you can be in this profession and doing it the right way and sticking to your guns.
I got my chaplain on. Tommy, you on?
I am. I'm here. I'm here.
Okay, we're gonna
So,
close hang out with a little prayer.
Coach Woods, thank you. I've been trying to get more Indiana guys on here, so I've been telling.
No doubt about it, man.
Right. Rico Marrero says hello, by the way.
Tell him I said what's up. That was one of the
Nope.
rebounders.
Yeah,
One of our
there he
favorites.
is. Drove him back and forth from Fort Wayne to Gary many a time. So he's
Yes,
a
sir,
great man.
everybody.
Absolutely. So let's pray, guys. Lord, thank you so much for this time of development and fellowship and getting to know each other through this game that you let us have a platform through, Lord. And Lord, we thank you for everybody on this call today. We thank you for Coach Woods and Coach Sprinkle that they're so willing to share everything that they've learned with us, Lord, and be able to help us grow. Lord, in these uncertain times right now, we pray that we'll fix our eyes on you, and know that no matter what happens, that you still sit on the throne, Lord, and you are, and as long as you're on the throne, anything that happens in this world is secondary, Lord, and we pray that we fix our eyes on you in that and take heart in that. So we pray for our athletes, Lord. That you'll continue to protect them as they come back to campuses, that you protect our staffs as they come back to campuses. And we pray that we pray for everything to be healed, Lord. Heal our land, Lord. Thank you again for this time of fellowship, Lord, and we love you and praise you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Guys, and make sure you guys put your chat information. Put your number in the chat box. And we'll be back here next Tuesday, same time.